Is there anything you want to say that I haven't asked you, or anything that you think is like important for people to know that we haven't touched on in this series?
Yeah, absolutely. There's just one thing comes to mind that I just want to share the story. During my journey last year, it's kind of weird because it's March right now, and in just a couple days, it'll be 1 year from when I had my first colonoscopy. And I've been journaling a lot and cutting little videos for myself, like, hey, this time last year I was doing this, and today I just exercised for an hour. It's like, count your blessings. I will say that. But I ended up getting COVID while going through treatment, and I got really, really, really sick. They put me on an antiviral drug. They didn't want me to go into the hospital because of my situation, and I couldn't move. I could only go to the bathroom barely, and my fever spiked over 103, and I was having trouble putting together sentences. And I remember that I pulled my wife in and I go, Raina, I don't know what's going to happen. I feel like I could end up going to the hospital, get put on a ventilator. Stuff's happening over here, Raina. Listen, if I die, I want to let you know that it's okay. If you end up dating anyone, be careful, pick the right one, because they're going to be the father to our child. And she told me to stop, don't talk that way. But I told her I needed to get it off my chest. And it was a very tough night to say that. And it made me realize that I wish I had done some more prep prior to getting sick. I hate that I had to say it, but I didn't know if I was going to have breath the next day. It was really, really bad. And I didn't tell everyone that story. I literally told my wife goodbye that night. I thought that was it. And I woke up the next morning and my fever broke. I snapped out of it. And I brought that up to my wife. I'm like, I can't believe we, went there. And she goes, yeah, you were pretty out of it, Richard. I was worried about you. And I go, well, that's why I spoke to you. And I'm so glad I said what I said to her though, because I wanted her to know that she would be okay if something happened, that, she'll fight on and remain herself, be true, and to be careful. And the reason I was giving her this advice is when my mom passed away, my father, there was all these ladies that came out of the woodwork. My dad lived in Pensacola, and he had ladies calling him from South Florida, and they were playing on his heartstrings. He ended up buying one woman a car. He rented an apartment for a lady with her son who was a missionary. They were taking advantage of my dad. He gave away my mom's car, did a lot of stuff. He was grieving. And I tell you this because I told my wife, to be careful.
Yeah.
So I got to tell all of y'all that, if you're going through this, you need to tell your family to be careful, that if something were to happen to you, people will try to take advantage of you. People were trying to get my dad's money that he got from maybe life insurance or the savings account. It was really strange. I had never seen anything like that in my life. Remember, I saw my parents split. I saw people take advantage of my dad, and he didn't know. And I say that my dad's a very strong man. He's still alive today, 87, kicking strong.
Mm-hmm.
And, I want to be like him. But I saw things happening that I didn't ever think would happen. So that's why I'm sharing this story with you. That's why I spoke with my wife, because I remember what happened to my dad.
Yeah.
It's stuff you don't want to think about, but once you get it done, you get what they call peace of mind. You did it. I have to tell you the value of a will. I remember at church, there was a gentleman, he was a taxi cab driver. His name was Marshall. And he was in the hospital. He ended up going on life support. And they called several of us up there. His mom wanted to know, did Marshall have a will at the church? Because they were asking her to unplug him. And she had just lost a son within the last year. And she's like, well, what do we do? What do I do? What does Marshall want? Well, unfortunately, if he had a will, no one knew about it. So we didn't know what he wanted. And that's the reason, one of the many reasons, having a will, having a living will, having your stuff organized, it just helps people be able to make decisions knowing what you wanted. Because a lot of people question, well, would dad have wanted this?
Yeah.
And I saw it tear this mother apart when the hospital was saying, all right, it's time to unplug him. He didn't have insurance. It was very expensive. And we talked to her, and I learned that day that, oh my gosh, I got to have a will done. From seeing that happen to that lady. So we don't like to talk about death.
Yeah.
We're not trying to talk about death. What we're trying to do is equip you with the resources so you can set yourself up to win. And while you're setting yourself up to win, you set your family up for them to be able to survive and then possibly even thrive once the grieving is over. Because I'm telling you that having no plan, if you aim for nothing, you'll hit it every time.
Yeah.
You hear all these cliche statements,
True.
failing to plan, you've planned to fail. Just make a plan. Having some plan is better than nothing, and you can always adjust the plan along the way.
Yeah, I think too, it's like you are, you know, no, you're right. We don't want to talk about death. But if you have all these loose ends and you're battling, you really don't have the mental or emotional energy to try and put things in place. And instead, it just hangs over your head and contributes to stress and draining you. So just having that tied up and ready to go means it gives you peace of mind. You can put it away and you can focus on where the real battle is.
Yes, and there's great companies out there that can help you put together a plan. Maybe you're like, I don't know how to do that. Let me go on the internet. Not giving legal advice, just sharing with you stories and encouraging you to go, find organizations that do this kind of stuff, estate planning. Talk to your doctor about this stuff. They may know of some resources. There may be some discounted resources that are out there that you're unaware of. There could be even some free services. There's foundations out there that have established funds to help people with things. You don't know unless you ask. And if you don't like the answer you get, my mother always used to say, remember, Richie, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And I didn't know what she meant until later in life.
Yeah.
And what she meant is like, don't be afraid to speak up, and continue to speak up, continue to squeak, continue to raise your hand. Continue to ask questions. You're not arguing, you're having a conversation. And when you got to ask the doctor that may something be challenging, there's a book that I read. There's a few of them, but I'm trying to paraphrase. This was one book. It was like praise, reprimand, praise, redirect. And, if you got to say something that sounds terrible, maybe start with a compliment. Doctor, I really love, the care you're giving me. I have a question about something you said to me. Sometimes going at somebody aggressively puts them on the defense.
Yeah.
Even though you're like, well, they're the professional, they should be able to handle it. Well, they're people too.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage you, if you're trying to learn how to communicate, I'm not the world's best at it. I'm still learning, but start with something nice and then tell them like, hey, be honest. I don't know what I'm looking at here. Can you go over it again? The words you just used are huge. I don't understand the words. I didn't go to school for this. Just know that everyone you're talking to has feelings. They may have just had a rough thing with another patient, and then you're the breath of fresh air because you're friendly. You're telling them thank you for their care. I mean, they may be just they don't know. And, I thanked my doctor. I'm like, thank you for being amazing, and he smiled, gave me a pat on the back, and it was what I needed. I didn't know it. And I was like, man, I'm glad I told him that. And so just try to approach it like, how would you want to be talked to if you were in their shoes? And you'll find that people will open up. Persistence overcomes resistance all the time. Be persistent. Fido, forget it and drive on.
There you go.
You got to drive forward. You got to push. You got to be like a duck. You see that duck on that lake out there? It looks smooth going across the water, but then if you take your mask and snorkel and look down, its little feet is paddling, but up top it looks like everything's under control. You're going to be like that. Some people are like, man, they looks like he's got it all together, but you're fighting on the inside. There's a war within between here and here and between here and here. And just, try to beat that the majority of the time.
Yeah.
And you're going to do great. You're going to do great. Just focus on the win. You're going to do great. No matter what the outcome is going to be, you can make every day the best day possible. Even when you feel your worst, you can.
That's awesome. Thanks, Richard.
Hey, thanks, Carrie.
Yeah.